Hi everyone, this is Debbie from Project 39 Mini Albums. This is the tutorial on how I made the 4th of July mini album. This is a Country Craft Creations design team project, and you'll see the walkthrough is also listed on my channel. I also made a couple of other albums, so if you are a subscriber and hit the bell for notifications, you'll know when those videos come out for the walkthrough of those projects. They're slightly different than this one. This mini album is 8 by 6, and I made it so you could put those 4 by 6 photos in here without a problem. For the whole walkthrough, go ahead and check out the video listed below. All right, let's get started with the tutorial. This will be done in 2 parts. The beginning is how to wrap the cover, make the hinge, and put the base pages that we make in it. And then after that, we continue to add flaps and folds and pockets if you want to, just spruce it up a bit. But if not, if you're a true beginner, I would just start with a very basic mini album with very basic pages. Go ahead and maybe add 1 or 2 flaps with cut aparts and just make it simple and finish it that way, and you'll get that done in no time. So I'm going to go ahead and start. I've already wrapped one of the pieces of chipboard just to save time, and I will show you how we do that. I am doing it according to the lay flat method, and this method is taught by Tamara of Country Craft Creations. All these supplies are purchased from Country Craft Creations. It's an online store, and of course I will link that in the description box. Now what I've done is cut this piece for the spine of the cardstock, and I'm using Artisan Cardstock, which I believe is 87 pound weight. This piece of cardstock is 5 inches by 10 inches. And I have these shims, and she has some beautiful shims available, she meaning Tamara, available at her online store that are not cardboard, they're plastic. And if you're trying to wrap your spine, this way everything stays straight. This is a fabulous method of doing it. So it's my take on Tamara's method. Now I've already put some score tape on the spine just to make things go quick and easy. Now there's 1.5 inches for the, I want 1.5 inches on this side and 1.5 inches on that side and 1 inch on the top. So I'm going to go ahead and put my chipboard spine and lean it here, and this way it's going to be perfectly straight. It's going to be 1.5 inches there and 1 inch there. So that is a fabulous trick that you might want to check out. So now what I want to do is I'm going to turn this over, and I'm going to take my bone folder and just try to see where the edge of the chipboard is. So now you can obviously see it. And I'm going to fold this and take my bone folder and burnish where that fold line is. Now I'll also do it on this side. And it's best to start with the spine first, especially if you use liquid adhesive, because that way it has time to dry while you're doing the front cover and back cover. So I know this might be a different method than what, if you've made a mini album before, it might be different than what you've done in the past. I suggest you try it. I'm just folding the paper and training it to make sure that it knows that it's going to fold the way I want it to when the time comes. All right, and I'm taking my bone folder and laying it again right down on the, creasing the paper and getting it straight. Now we have these four corners. There we go. We have these four corners. You could either take a scissors, and I'm just going to take an X-Acto knife, and I'm going to cut these four corners out, making sure that I don't go, I'm staying where the, where it's already, the lines are, and I'm not getting any closer to the edge of the chipboard. So we'll go ahead and cut all of these four corners out. And again, you could use scissors if that's more convenient or comfortable for you. Okay, simple enough. Now that's done. Now what we want to do is make sure that there's not going to be any overhang. And to do that, we'll go against all four of these corners. And I'm going to fold this in, take my scissors, and put the scissors on the chipboard, or, you know, where the edge of the covered chipboard is, and just make a very slight cut. I mean, you can see how much came off. Very slight. I'll unfold that, fold the next one, and continue to make slight cuts, just making sure that there's no overhang. Now on this one, there's a little bit more than the other, but still, I'm just going to go all around those four and make sure I cut it. Now I'm going to turn it over and fold this in and get the other side to make sure that there's no overhang. Now, as part of this mini album that I'm making, again, if you want to, you can make it exactly as I've done. But if you are a true beginner, I would suggest just go ahead and make the cover, the hinge system, and the base pages, and put it all together and just make a simple mini album and decorate it that way. All right, now you could either use all the glitter glue, or some glitter glue and some tape. And all we're going to do is these two shorter flaps. You're leaving these longer wings just the way they are. I'm going to just take a little bit of score tape and putting it on. My theory is I let the score tape hold it while the glue is drying, just because I'm pretty impatient. All right, and I'm taking off. I should have burnished that better, and look, there we got some chipboard under there, but that's okay. I'm just showing you how to do it. I'm going to take a little bit of glue and put it right next to that chipboard. I feel like that helps loosen up the fibers and makes it a little easier to fold. And if nothing else, when you are scoring the edge of the paper, because I like to have a nice straight edge, it's going to help hold that nice straight edge. All right, now take your bone folder and push that paper up again, and now pull it down. Now, one of the tricks of the trade is to use a baby wipe. That glue is, that score tape is there. Use the baby wipe to help pull up any extra glue. If you take inexpensive brands and just wash them out, then that helps pull some of the lint off. Okay, again, I'm going up right next to the chipboard and folding this over, and that'll give you a nice close fold. One more time, and I'm going to push that down, and then I'm going to put this aside for later. Now let's do one of the covers. So to cover the 8x10 chipboard, you're going to need, I wrote 8x10, but really it's not. I'm changing that because I don't want to confuse anyone. I wrote it in chalk, 12x10. And the reason we want it 12x10 is because you want 1 inch on each side. So you'll add 2 inches to that and 2 inches to that. So from 8x10, you're going to get 10x12. And now what you'll use here is the 1 inch shim. I'll use that one up that way and this one on this side. And you make sure your paper is pushed against the edge. And on here, if you have score tape sheets, that is the best thing because now you'll make sure that you've got good coverage. There's not going to be any bumps or air pockets once you've put your cover down. I don't have those big sheets right now, so I just put score tape, and I will also add a little bit of glue in the area where there is no score tape. Art glitter glue is my favorite glue. It is, I guess it started to be for glitter, but it has nothing to do with glitter. It just dries clear, dries pretty much of a matte finish. It doesn't take very long to dry at all, and it's got good adhesion. All right, so again, we're making sure this is pushed up into the sides. I've got my 1 inch shims. I'm going to push this down. And that is done. There is 1 inch around all 4 sides. I used to score it. I used to eyeball it. I used to do all sorts of things. But watching a video where Tamara showed this method in the shims, it was like genius. So Country Craft Creations, as I said, is an online store. They sell all sorts of scrapbooking supplies, paper, glue, score tape, embellishments, and just recently, so this was made, this video, in April of 2021, Country Craft Creations and Tamara, who's the brainchild of it, came out with a new paper line, paper that she designed and had artists do the artwork for, and then it's printed here in the United States. It's printed in Utah, I believe, and I think that's fabulous. Woman-owned company, made in the United States. What is better than that? Okay, I'm going to trim again right on these 4 squares. Okay, let's get all this away. And this one I'm going to do with just the glitter glue to show you how that holds without using the score tape. So I'm just putting a little bead of it there and filling this area. Oh, I didn't go by and do this, did I? Were you guys yelling at me, telling me to do that? All right, I'm going to glue this one down because I've already started with the art glitter glue. And as I said, it dries fairly quickly. So I don't want that to, if the glue dries, it just gets a little gunky. Okay, fabulous. Now I'll go ahead and trim the rest of these corners, which I should have done to begin with. So a little bit about my channel, if you're new to it. I make mostly mini albums, but I also do all sorts of other paper crafting. I make cards. I make all sorts of different kinds of cards, like folded envelopes and all that. I do it from my RV. I'm in my RV studio. My husband and I travel around the country. The intent was to teach as I traveled, but then COVID sort of stopped that. Maybe I'll get to it someday. But since I can't actually go out and teach, YouTube is a good option for me. So I started my YouTube channel, and I'm learning things, and I hope that I am teaching other people things as well. I hope that I can inspire somebody. So I hope that I can inspire you to make a mini album. And if you do, let me know. Put it in the comment section, and somehow, whether you post on Country Craft Creation Facebook group or some other way, I'd love to see what you make. I think this is a great community of people inspiring each other. And it's one of the things I enjoy about paper crafting is the positivity that comes out of just everybody getting together and either doing the same thing or trying to inspire their friends or YouTube buddies. All right, now it's all done. I'm going to take my bone folder and just go across the edge. It gives it a nice, crisp look. And it gives me such a feeling of satisfaction. So there we go. We've got the two covers and the hinge. So now we're going to grab our scoreboard again. Not because we need to score anything, but we're going to use this as a means of lining things up. All right, I'm going to grab some score tape, and I'm going to put it maybe 1/8 of an inch away from the chipboard hinge. Close enough it's going to hold, but not so close that it's going to show. And then you could use 1/4 inch score tape as well, but I've run out of mine. There we go. I'm going to move this aside and burnish. It's very important to burnish your score tape really well. Being careful not to go too close to the edge. I don't want to poke a hole with the point of my bone folder. And it's important to burnish it real well because you don't want air pockets underneath there. All right, I am going to take this one side and fold it over. I'm going to, did I do this for this one? I didn't, because there's, okay, I'll peel off the score tape. And that's the other thing. If you burnish it well, it makes it easy to peel off. So we'll fold this one over, putting it against the edge and against the top. While it's there, I'm going to grab my art glitter glue and just add some where there's no score tape. just to make sure it stays. And then I'm going to take one of my covers and I'm going to pull it across the surface and let it just drop down, making sure it's up at the top. There we go. And so that is, I'm going to burnish. So I want it close to the spine and the cover, want it close, so there's room for it to move. All right, now we can do this side. I'll peel off the score tape. Add some more glue. I can actually move this up. And push that down. I'll move my there we go, and just burnish this so they're level. And there is your book cover. So the good thing is it's very flexible. You're not going to have the cracking that you would normally have well, just because you won't, because it's going to be just because of the way the method is. And then we're going to go ahead and make the hinge. So that is the next step to it. For the hinge system, you need a piece 7 3/8 by either 11 or 12 inches. If you're using 12 by 12 paper, then go ahead and do the 7 3/8 by 12. If you're using 8.5 by 11 paper, do 11 by 7 3/8. It's okay either way. Now, this is 12-inch paper. Let me bring this down here. I'm going to actually, because what I do is, see on my scoreboard, see these lines? That is how, if I'm making half-inch hinges with a 3/8 of an inch gusset, then I just follow along with what I already have. So actually, I could just start it this way. So let us start. So there's going to be 1, 2, 3.5 versus 2. So we really want to start at 2 3/4. 2 3/4. And then the way to do it is, so we're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4 spaces. 1, 2, 3, 4 spaces, and then 1, 2, 3. 4, 4, and 3. So 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3. So the measurements are all right, the measurements are 2 3/4, 3 1/4, 3 3/4, 4 1/8, 4 5/8, 5 1/8, 5 1/2, 6, 6 1/2, 6 7/8, 7 3/8, 7 7/8, 8 1/4, 8 3/4, 9 1/4. So that will give us 1/2 inch, 1/2 inch, 3/8. And the reason we're doing that is because the 1/2 inch and 1/2 inch are going to be the hinge to hold our pages, and the 3/8 is the gusset between. So now that we've got that done, we're going to go ahead and put tape on. All right, so now this is still faced up. I didn't turn it over. The indentations are here on the top, and I'm taking my 1/4 inch score tape and I am putting it on the 1/2 inch line to where the 2 1/2 inches meet. And I'll do that for all 5 sets of the 1/2 inch hinges. There are other ways to make hinges, and as a matter of fact, Tamara from Country Craft Creations does it differently. I mean, everybody's sort of got their own method. I would say try several of them, several different methods, and see what works for you. You know, over time, you will probably want to make your own method or combine a couple of different people. A lot of people I know just use art glitter glue for their hinges. I haven't gotten that trusting. I'm sure it works fine, but I just haven't started with it. All right, so now I turned it upside down, and you can see there's hinge, hinge, gusset, hinge, hinge, gusset. The gussets are the 3/8 of an inch, and that's where we're going to put 3/8 of an inch score tape. If I go a little too far, that's okay. I can cut it off when I'm all done. On this, because the gussets are going to be attached to the cover, I'd want to make sure that I've got good coverage. So there's 4 spaces in between the 5 hinges, so I've got that done. Now, for each hinge, I want them to kiss. I want them to stick together forever. But I don't need a 1/2 inch piece of score tape. I'm just going to use the 3/8, and I'm just going to put it on one side, because it's going to make sure that they stick together forever. And again, you could use, if you want, the art glitter glue, but I'm using this. And then see, I've got this one more, I don't know if you can see, one more hinge here. No, you can. And I'm putting it down at the bottom like I did the other ones. Now I'm going to grab my X-Acto and my ruler and cut all the excess. If I were a neater person, I wouldn't have to do this, but I'm not. I'm just trying to get right up at the edge. I don't want to go too much or too little. All right, now let's make sure that it's burnished real well. All right, now what I want to do is I want to make sure this part is going to stay on the cover of the mini album. It's probably overkill, but I'm using this. If I had 1-inch score tape, I would just use 1-inch score tape, but I don't. And I don't feel like taking all of the 3/8 of an inch and putting it down you know, in a whole bunch of strips. That will take care of it. These bigger pieces of score tapes are fabulous. And the score tape sheets are too. I need to order some. All right, now I'm going to turn this over, and where these 1/2 inch pieces are, we are going to fold the paper. Just fold it where that is and burnish real well. We'll do it again here. Fold that. I'm making sure it's straight and burnish. This is really important that we train the paper here to go exactly where we want it to. So in between those 1/4 inch pieces, we're going to fold and burnish. Now I'm going to put the paper down. I'm going to turn this way to show you what I'm doing. So here is the 1/4 inch pieces, and we folded it like this. So now we're going to put it flat down on the table, and we're going to try to get the other folds to lay flat. So we're going to keep these hinges, and we're going to get them to kiss. So I'm doing it this way. I'm putting it down, and I'm just pulling it up. And let it go. It's going to go. But at least we're training the other 2 areas to fold. And I'll bend it back and forth so it starts getting used to going the way I want it to. So I'll do that for all 5 hinges. Okay, so now it sort of is a little bit trained, but now we're going to make sure it's permanent. So I put it back down, and it's still not sitting flat on the table because it's got mountains and valleys and whatever. And so there's the 1/2 inch hinges right here. And I'm going to take the tape that's on one of the 1/2 inch hinge, not the 3/8 gusset, but the 1/2 inch hinge. There's one for each set of hinges. And I'm going to gently peel it off without trying to have the paper go back to its original position. I don't want to flatten it. I want to keep it mountains and valleys. Now I'm going to turn it over gently. I don't want to push it down because I don't want where we just pulled the backing to stick to the surface. But I'm going to go ahead and grab the mountain that's got the 1/2 inch hinges that we just pulled together and pull it together again. And just with your fingers, just have those hinges kiss each other. See? These are ones I still have to do, and those are ones that I've done. We'll do it for this. And because we put the score tape at the bottom of this hinge, it's going to stick together at the bottom. We didn't put score tape at the top of the hinge, but it's still going to hold together. This is the back. So see, it's a little open here, so I need to train it a little bit more. To do that, now I'm going to lay it down, and I'm going to push it one direction, take my bone folder, and burnish it real well. pull it the other direction, and burnish it again. And do that several times. Again, you're training your hinge to do what you want it to. You want your hinge to go back and forth easily. That will help your pages go back and forth easily so people can turn the pages in the book. Eventually it's just going to do it on its own. See, now it'll move the way we want it to. All right, I like it. It's looking good. So again, there's the hinges. They've kissed. They are there for the long haul. They are together. So now I'm going to take my scissors, and where there is this 1/4 inch piece, I'm going to cut it maybe at a 45-degree angle. And I'll do that for 5 pieces on this side. And then the 5 ones on this side. Alrighty. And now we're going to cover the spine. We're going to use a piece of scrap paper. You want it to be about 1/8 of an inch less in height than the height of the book. So I cut it to 7 7/8 because the height of the book is 8 inches, and by 4 1/2, and just 4 1/2 because that's the size of the scrap I had left. You wanted at least to cover the spine and 3/8 of an inch on each side. So at the very least do it, I don't know, 2 3/4, but you could do 4, 5, 6. So I have a 4 1/2 inch piece of scrap, and I'm going to use that. So we'll go ahead and, and I put some score tape on the back. I had a 2 1/2 inch piece, so that will cover the spine. So I'm going to take off just a little bit on each side. This is a trick I learned from Country Craft Creations. I'm going to grab my glitter glue and fill in. I mean, you could use one of those score tape sheets if you want. Again, I don't have it, so I'm just going to use a little bit of this glitter glue. And I'll start at the bottom and line it up as straight as I can. And this is just going to cover the spine. And then I'm going to make sure it'll be straight, and it will. So I'll go ahead and peel off the rest of the adhesive. And also this way, if there was too much on here, you still would have time to pull it back and put in your trimmer and trim it down. And I'm going to make sure that it's on the spine. And I'm going to take, so this bone folder I have is not sharp. You don't want to take the pointed part of the blade. And I'm going in the seam of where the cover and the spine attach, and just try to train the paper to bend there. And I'll do the same for this side. Again, I'm doing this with the blunt end because I don't want the paper to tear. And we've got that. And using this Artisan Cardstock, it just makes it go so much easier. This Artisan Cardstock is wonderful to use. All right, so now I've got the spine cover, and I'm going to cover this up. I don't have to take that out. So now we'll move on. Okay, to make pages for the book that are 7 1/2 by 5 1/2, you'll need, there's 5 pages in the book, so you'll need 5 that are 7 1/2 by 5 1/2 and 5 that are 8 1/2 by 5 1/2. Move the 7 1/2 inch aside, and let's take the 8 1/2 by 5 1/2. And I'm going to put them on the scoreboard with the long side at the top and score 1/2 inch and at 8. So we'll get 1/2 inch on each side. I'm going to grab my scissors and miter the corners. I just place it where the score is and just cut off a little bit of it. And then I'm going to take my bone folder and burnish. So the bump is here on the top. I'm going to fold this and burnish. And so here is my 7.5 inch piece. And I'm going to lay it right on top and make sure it's as straight as I can get it. I've got, could do it this way. So I've got the folded area up at the top and the smaller piece just sitting in there. It's not glued. So now I'll take the art glitter glue. Because of the change in the temperature here, it's starting to already come out. And then this piece is sitting there. It's even on both sides. It's exactly straight. And I'll just pull this up and push it down. That way it's straight every time. So I will burnish that. And then I'll pull this up for a sec. Grab my glitter glue. And then simply push that down and burnish. And so that is a base page. It is basically a tube. I'm grabbing my little baby wipe. And go ahead and make the other 5 pages the same way. I've already gone ahead and done that. So I have my 5 pages. Here's my book with the spine. And I'm going to start from the back of the book. Now some people decorate the pages and then put them in. I don't do it that way. Either way, whatever works for you. And sometimes I do this, sometimes I don't. I will grab the glue and just put a little bit at the very top of the hinge. Put the hinge on, making sure I go down over the score tape, but not too far down. And I make sure it's straight. Now there's still room to play with it now. Don't push it down until you're sure. And I generally fold it down so I make sure it's straight on the top, bottom, and the side. And when I like it, then I push it down. I don't burnish yet. I'll go back and do it later. And then do the same for the rest of the pages. And with each of these, come on, you're going to line it up with this, the last page you put in. So again, I'll grab the glue and just put it at the very top. And the reason I do that is it sort of seals the page. Some people use glitter glue to put their whole album together. If I weren't so messy, I'd do that. There we go. And then do that for the other pages. All right, now that I've got the pages in, I'm going to grab my bone folder and burnish and make sure that glue, I'll use my fingers, and make sure that glue is going to seal the pages. And that way, if you have pockets going in, once the glue is dry, it'll seal and the pages won't get stuck on the adhesive if it's not been sealed real well. And there we go. That's what it looks like from the top. And there is your base book. So go ahead and stop now. If you are a pure beginner, this is fabulous. You can make a book just like this, decorate it, and it'll be fabulous. And it's a good start. I'm going to continue with part 2. And that's going to be a little more complicated. It's going to have lots of flaps and pockets. And you can pick and choose if you want any of those pages for the book you make. If you want just a little bit extra, then take a piece of cardstock. This is, what does this measure? 3.5 by 4 1/4, and you can just score 1/2 inch on the long side and then take your 3 by 4 card and put it on one of the pages in the book, put it, or every page in the book. You can have it on one side, you can have it on the other, and that'll add a lot of decorative element to your very first mini album. So I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. Don't forget to subscribe so you can see the new ones that I make, and check out all the other things that I make on my channel. All the materials, again, are available at countrycraftcreations.com. There will be a link in the description box. Thanks so much and have a fabulous day.